So first of all, welcome to all of you for having this session, as well as I hope all of you guys are healthy as well as safe, given the crisis we are in. And I am also hoping that all of you guys are doing good. Uh, as the theme for the today's panel discussion is more about unlocking values from the data analytics, AI, machine learning, as well as the IoT. I think we are calling it as a DEMI at this moment, but it's actually component to various four components here: the data analytics, AI, machine learning, and IoT. And in fact, I have a very eminent panelist, four panelists with me: the Monish, Mayur, Vartul, and Mukesh. And the way we can probably may start with just an introductory remark, because all of them have come from a very diverse background, a lot of industry experience into this space. I would request to have an introductory comment, maybe some of the specific they would like to share in the beginning of the one, and then we have a few questions that we try to answer. At the end, we'll have a lot of questions that we can answer from the audience head. So let me start with inviting Monish Vora, the EVP and head customer experience from SBI Card and payment services. Monish, can you please maybe have your introductory comments and maybe share some of your experience in the beginning in the context of the topic that we are having here.
Thanks, Anish. I think thanks for the invite to Exito, and thanks to everybody from my panelists for this. I think a very important and very relevant topic that we are going to discuss today. As technology.
Can you hear me?
Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, Monish, you are audible. Please go ahead.
So,
okay.
We're talking about technology, and then we're talking about technology glitches and glitches.
I'm not sure he's able to hear me. If we will come back.
Let me just.
Okay. Then I jump to the. Meanwhile, we are able to connect to Monish. Let me request Vartul to have to start the introductory.
Hey,
I think there is a
looks like
lot
your network is a problem.
What is
So Manish, if you can switch off your video and you can run with the audio, probably you can have better connectivity. And so because your voice is breaking continuously, so let's give it a try.
Yeah, I guess
Monish Vora.
This seems to be a bit better now, is it?
Hello.
Yeah, better. Yeah, better.
Yeah. So I guess important topic for us to really talk about in terms of how technology is
Yes,
evolving.
we can hear you, Monish. Okay. Which network? My network is a problem?
Yeah, Manish, your network was
Okay.
problem. Monish Vora's network is completely fine. So Monish Vora, you can, sir, you can start.
Okay. So I was wondering where we have the issue. Okay. So we were at where technology is really leading us to, and what technology is really going to do in the future for us. A few quick thoughts about this entire thing. I believe that technology has always been at the forefront of the new world order. It's been there since the world wars, and now you see a heightened sense of urgency here. Recollect, most technological innovations and adoptions actually happen during crisis, whether these are wars or natural calamities or now this pandemic. The challenges that arise out of these crises, they impact all segments of the economy, whether these are individuals or businesses. And what it really does is it resets. It's like a reset button, and it takes us back to the grassroots and the basics, and starts thinking about how are we doing things and how do we do things better. The current situation obviously is where we know all of us are getting impacted at a top line, and the obvious consequence is that if your top line gets impacted, you start managing your bottom line, which means cost optimization. And the only way really around this entire thing is to really start talking about a blue sky thinking. You have to start thinking about revisiting your operating models and questioning the status quo. We have to think about not only newer ways of doing things, but probably also about new things that you want to do. This is where we find that an embracement of what we were doing, the technology that we were hitherto thinking as bleeding edge technologies, AI, ML, to the mundane, it may sound as if it's probably rocket science. But the fact is that increasingly these technologies will actually become as mainline as personal computing and mobile telephony. And what is going to really make the difference is the accelerated pace at which both the consumers and the businesses adopt these, because that's the need of the hour. So today it's more of a push, but this push is ultimately going to lead to a status where this becomes quite routine. And that is what I foresee in the future times for us to come. Thanks, Manish.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Manish. I hope now I'm clear. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry for that. So let me come to the Vartul now. I think Vartul, can you please share your introductory remarks in the theme of the topic that we have?
Yeah, definitely, Manish. Thanks for that opportunity. So my 2 cents are like when we talk about BFSI sector particularly, it is one of the most highly acutely impacted sector right now. When you talk about pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and not about pandemic. Pandemic may end soon, but when we look at the larger decade that we are going to follow post 2020, most of the operating models which have been into place for last couple of years will become obsolete, and even what we are doing today, probably it will have a lot of reimagined kind of an operating model which will exist in the future. So hence financial institutions, whether they are consumer side or the institution side, they have to restructure themselves in the framework that they follow, what they adapt post crisis, and plus the customer experience, operation efficiency is the core of every project, every engagement, every initiative any organization is currently taking. So we have to focus not only on customer experience, but how we make it more operationally efficient. So this is where I see BFS sector will head to, and we need to adopt new technologies much faster now, because now we know that with less people on ground on the operations floor, with the possibility of deploying bots will help us expedite our business as usual procedures. Thanks. That's from my side, Manish.
Okay, thanks, Vartul. I think you really raised couple of good points with respect to operational excellence, as well as the customer service being the focus in order to run the business. I think this is a very good point. We'll come back to those points again. Let me now request Mukesh Singh, the CTO from Lendingkart, to please share your introductory remarks on the topic.
Yeah, thanks, Manish. Thanks for this opportunity. And in fact, it's a great privilege to be talking here. Okay. So one thing that I wanted to add is like for AI ML to really work, right? So you need the clean data, right? And if you see in last 5 odd years, okay, for specifically for BFSI industry, okay, so there has been tons of push coming from the government side around digital, okay. And if you see, say, starting from UPI to say other form of basically digital push that the government has done, okay. So you are seeing that tons of digital data, okay, now it is available in a form of digital, so that you can do lots of innovation around it, okay. And one big change that I foresee is going to come with account aggregator, okay. And account aggregator should have been live by now if there was no COVID. But anyway, so post-COVID, so you will see that account aggregator ecosystem will basically introduce various other business models where like customer is going to be at the center, okay, and superior customer experience can be provided using this data, okay. So today, say for example, for any use case that we take, okay, so with with the availability of this data, okay, and coming from various sources, the whole like fraud part or underwriting, etc. All those things are going to be semi-real time, okay, and that's where you will see that a lot of issues that say for example most of the BFSI sector faced today was because of a lot of manual nature of stuff that they were doing, okay. Somehow like people have escaped through and like they're still productive and working, okay, but you will see a lot of it is going to be automated, and you will see a wider adoption of AI/ML, okay, where this entire customer journey is going to be fully automated. Customer can basically simply sit in their home and pretty much everything will be done for them. So next 5 to 10 years, I see is going to be a golden years for BFSI sector in terms of adoption of technology and in terms of disruptions that you will see. So I will end with that,
Okay.
Manish. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mukesh. I think you again bring a very important point to the technology space because data. So data is really a fuel, and the way right now we are in the process to collecting the data. Now it's time to start acting upon that, and that probably may create a lot of improvement towards the customer journey, and well, customer would be in the center of it. Okay, I think thanks for bringing. We'll come back to those points. Let me invite Mayur also into this one. I think Mayur, can you please also share your set of remarks?
Sure. Thank you, Manish. Hello, everyone. Let me start by asking you whether you all are doing good. This is indeed a challenging time for all of us, and as we all know, it's not just pandemic that we're looking at. I think a lot of things are going to change post-pandemic. So it's going to be a new era. The way we work is going to be different. And like Mr. Vora and Vorthal already said, right, technology has been an integral part of business for quite some time. But we've not taken it as seriously as it is right now because we've all been pushed into a lockdown currently. We are all started looking at technology and improving our efficiency, our operational efficiency in terms of streamlining our processes. And with with digitization coming into play, and the Indian government looking at data governing policies and so on, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how digitization, data analytics, AI, learning, machine learning, and chatbots are going to make a difference in the future.
Okay, thanks, Mayur. I think thanks for bringing that point. Let me also share my comments towards to the topic that we are having it. See, I right now leading the machine learning and data science team from MX side of it, which is based out Bangalore. And this team is responsibility to leverage the state-of-the-art solutions in the space of the machine learning and deep learning side of it for our risk analytics function. And that serves for across the globe, not only just specific to India. And when I say that we are kind of a front runner into the space of the risk management side of it, in fact, our fraud rates are like kind of 1/3, half of the industry rates out there. In fact, I'm also happy to share that we are the one actually not only just talk about that, we generally deploy those real-time deep learning solutions for our fraud prevention kind of thing in production. So, and because the way we are running billions of transactions across the globe, I think that requires a really sophistication of those technology in place. And obviously, I think the point which earlier Mukesh has raised about the data side of it, I think definitely we also leverage all the orthogonal kind of data into that space and try and improve each and every time our systems on this place. Both technology side of the data side, I think that's a lot of things to do. Let me now shift a gear about that. And since all of us are into the COVID kind of scenarios and the technology is changing the landscape into that space, let me request one question from Monish that obviously COVID significantly impacted the development and use of many such technologies that we are talking about. Um, if so, and how? Like basically, how these technologies are shaping the or significantly impacting by the COVID.
Yeah, Manish, thanks. I think both data analytics and technology, they've been here for, like we said, they've been here for ages. And the technologies have been evolving, and they've been evolving at a pretty fast pace. In addition, what we're also seeing is we are finding that the customers are both adapting and adopting these at a fairly faster clip. So, things like AI, ML enabled chatbots, traditional IVRs being replaced by more personalized and interactive mediums like the voice bot. They've been there for quite some time. The only challenge is that I think most of these have been put in place by really, as of now, organizations who are really considered as pioneering organizations and visionaries who've adopted them. You don't find a lot of predominant use of these technologies as mundane technologies today. However, the fact is that these technologies, the more you use a technology, the more it evolves. And the more it evolves, the more effective it becomes, which then further spurts the usage of this technology. It's an iterative process. The technology will keep on evolving, and it will evolve as the business needs change. Obviously, the pandemic today and the crisis, like I said earlier, is spurring this both the adoption at the business level as well as at the consumer level. It's just making sure that this thing gets accelerated a lot faster. But what is significant here is that technology from a services perspective, it's always been there, and it's always been a lot more, I would say, evolved, because services as a non-product domain, it's always been more amenable to the use of technology, and being intangible, the customers are more likely and more open to both adopt and adapt new technologies at a much faster pace. But then there are two significant elements to this entire thing. First, the most important thing that I feel is the fact that any half-hearted attempt at actually ticking the box, just being a me too there, saying that okay, everybody in the world's got a chatbot up and running, and probably I need to put a chatbot up on my mobile app and the website, doesn't really work. The fact is there is a lot of hard work that goes through data analytics, through your own process engineering, which makes sure that once the rubber hits the road, it is 90% plus there. What I would say is, do not test drive with the customer. The customer is unforgiving. So if you take out a product or a service in the market that you're still testing out, the customer is not likely to take it very seriously. And you have only one shot for adopting a new technology. The moment you get into technology, chances are the customer is going to not find it useful, reject it, and not probably come back. The second point of technology is
maybe we would like to let me request also the Mukesh here on the similar note from the COVID side of it, because it's how companies are leveraging analytics and AI in the COVID times to contain the business impact that it may incur. Because that is also the a lot of landscape is changing from the business side of it. There are a lot of impact being also incurring. How the technology is helping it out there.
So one change, that we all have seen is that both customer as well as the enterprises have adapted to it. So a lot of those customers, like previously, like when you are introducing any new technology, there will be early adopters, right? And only early adopters will try, and once it becomes more of a kind of mass, then only your bulk of the customers will come. Now, what COVID has done is it has kind of accelerated that. So those people who were not as tech savvy or were not, say for example, using technology to get their stuff done, and That applies not only to BFSI, but to other industries as well. So you see that the customers have kind of moved forward in terms of they don't have fear of doing, say, online transactions, etc. And they have also realized that probably sitting from home, pretty much all of their work is getting done. Okay, and this change is there to stay. I don't think this is going to go away once COVID ends. Okay, now on the BFSI front, so you have seen already that the companies have adopted, right? So they basically changed some of their models that was physical in nature and basically uploaded some of it to some of the automations, etc. that they did, okay? As well as they adopted, like I saw like so many people calling me in terms of they wanted to really adopt a voice bot kind of system, okay? And many of them basically pulled it off in like 3 odd weeks, okay? And that is a change that's I would say a welcome change from some of the traditional players as well, okay? Where like they would not have moved as fast if it was not this crisis situation, okay? Other change that I see is that there were lots of reluctance around say adoption of cloud technologies, etc. Okay, now basically remote access is a norm, right? And in that remote access parlance, right, so more and more companies are open for adopting cloud. And of course it has two impact. One is of course it's making you much more agile in terms of the way you can adopt newer technologies, okay? Number two is also it making business sense in terms of the entire cost perspective, etc. Okay, and if you see most of these, say, cloud companies in India, okay, whether it is AWS or GCP, in fact, Azure already has multiple data centers, and these guys have kind of accelerated their deployment as well in terms of multiple data centers. Okay, so you will see in a couple years down the line. Okay, so many players who is having today basically on-prem or dedicated data centers, they are going to leverage cloud. Okay, and that's also a change that is going to be there. And of course, all of it is going to help ultimately the customer, because customer is going to be much more demanding. So the way we have been working before, okay, it can't be a status quo anymore.
Okay.
And that's what I
Okay,
wanted to add.
thanks, Mukesh. I think you really bring it up the same, like very interesting point. And as well as you're right, I think acceleration has started because of COVID, and the technology may stay for a while. And both of you have mentioned about the chatbots and conversation AI kind of thing. We have an expert into this area, the Virtul. So let me request Virtul only about to talk about the AI technology, how it has been grown over the years, and there is always a difference between chatbots versus digital assistants, and there are key trends that may also going into the conversational AI BFSI. So, what can you please give more light towards that?
Yes, Manish, thanks a lot for the opportunity. So currently, we see that every industry can and has leveraged conversational AI to improve their profitability, be it through better customer experience, be it through higher customer retention, or be it through lower cost of operation. So now, from an organizational function perspective, currently the forerunners would be customer service, sales, and human resources. These functions have the direct and most obvious correlation with revenue generation and customer experience. Secondly, the main challenges when it comes to adoption are two, namely deployment cost and data security and privacy. Now, to overcome these barriers, organizations must craft the blueprint for conversational AI, how they adopt it in a way that it maximizes the efficiency. Plus, their implementation partner must have an exhaustive playbook of the most relevant use cases, which leverages gold standard transformation framework. And it is very important to have a discussion on the art of possible and what kind of return of value or return of integration to expect. So that is the very important point. Now, having said this, that there are challenges, there are solutions around it. We have seen we are seeing an increase in demand from finance, audit, procurement, where conversational AI can revolutionize how the end user in the organization interacts with machine, plus how the employee experience as well as customer experience is equally important. And for all the organizations, how digital assistants, which we call the conversational AI bots, have been deployed in HR function, how they are now realizing the value of the deployment along with the daily operations to provide unexplored benefits. So these also requires a skilled talent pool and a very well crafted organizational strategy to understand how digital assistants work and how they can be utilized to their full potential. I hope that was good to set the
Okay.
context.
Okay. Thanks, Artul. I think that's a really pretty interesting one, conversational AI. And there are a lot of challenges and use cases need to bring upfront and alignment is required beforehand to make it a reality. And obviously, it has an impact to the way we service the customer as well as the employee within the organization also. So let me request Mayur also to pitch in both topics, which is more towards to the how the technology is helping in a new norm. At the same time, what are the new major use cases which are you thinking in terms of coming it into a next gen use cases into the technology side of it from a BFSI for a BFSI?
Sure. Thank you, Manish. So, Manish, we all live in a very dynamic world, right, where quite a few businesses have spread geographically depending on their growth strategies, which in turn change the way we work. Right. So, most of the companies have already implemented some sort of technology to facilitate productivity while working remotely. However, as I said, it was seldom used before, but because of the lockdown, we've now been forced to look at these options more seriously. There are even few sectors which basically rely on paperwork and physical presence, but even they are now actively exploring technology from a business continuity point of view. Let me give you some examples, right? SEBI recently announced virtual data sharing of information with shareholders for new capital market transactions. Banking and financial services moving to eKYC and video KYC. Even the businesses that we typically cater to, which is strategic financial transactions like mergers and acquisitions, capital raising, IPO, insolvency and bankruptcy cases, or even third-party communications, secure communications with your internal employees, with your third-party vendors or partners, and so on. So people are using technology to leverage these solutions, technology platforms, to speed up the processes and collaborate securely. Now, speaking about what use cases that we see, although it would be too nascent, but some trends that we've seen is one is audit. Now, typically, when we look at any audit use case, be it statutory audit or compliance audit, they all happen, physically. The auditor would go to a client's office and do that. But because of the current situation, this is all moving to virtual world, right? Where the companies would want to share data in a secured manner with the auditors for them to basically review and generate a report. Another use case that stands out is a LIBOR, right, which is basically the London Interbank offered rate, which is basically coming to it. So it is basically a benchmark of interest rates on how lending and borrowings are calculated in the international market. And that is going to end by 31st December 2021. We're speaking about hundreds of trillions of dollars of contracts which needs to be relooked and revalidated. So banks, companies will have to basically come up with ways how they can collaborate with multiple parties. We are speaking about law firms, auditors, third-party consultants, and many processes. So consolidating data, identifying which contracts are impacted, and then tracking progress in a very secured manner, that comes into play. And last one, it's a sensitive topic, right? When we speak about NPAs, non-performing assets, we've all been hearing this in news, proposal for bad bank loans, that have been doing rounds in the discussions of lately. So typically what the challenge over there is, between different lenders, there is not enough transparency, there is not enough data sharing, and that's exactly what is required. And even the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board defines the same thing. So transparent sharing of mechanism in a very structured format is a key there. So these are certain changes that we foresee would come into play.
Okay, thanks Mayur for adding up a lot of points, talking about the data as well as the regulations into this. In fact, I just would like to also bring the point of privacy here, because a lot of time once we talk about the customer adoption, the privacy is also one of the concerns that everybody is having it. In fact, we also deal with a lot of BFSI out there, and then it naturally comes in our mind how secure our data is it how it is getting shared across different platforms, is it the ethical use of the data is there or not, or who is having access to the data. So let me request Monish also to add some more points with respect to how the customer are adopting the technology with the context of privacy, or how do you feel like, because he managed the customer service and out there, so he might have certain challenges or concerns on that regard. Monish, would you like to add there?
Yeah, thanks, Manish. Bang on. I think you are absolutely right. And as a retail organization, we have tons and tons of customer data. And what has really happened in the recent past with all the news that we are hearing about data issues, about sharing of data, sharing of PII data, SPII data, and with the new GDPR rules coming in, while we're still not a signatory to that, but the fact is that those are best practices that at some stage we would really need to and probably should be adopting, because that is what is going to give a comfort to a customer. The other point is, as a retail organization, we generate tons of data, and it is more of a fiduciary responsibility, not just from a financial perspective, from a data perspective now, that we keep this entire data secure. So, I think that is what is changing in terms of a paradigm shift of how we are servicing customers. In the olden days, you would have thought that a customer service agent has to, by default, know the entire customer history and the customer details. How is it that the customer is supposed to be serviced if I don't know what the basic details are? But the fact is that we realized when we went into this entire thing, there is a lot of information that the agent doesn't really need. And in fact, all of it has to do with the PII and the SPII. You do not really need a lot of information to be exposed to the front line to be able to effectively service a customer. So one way is that you actually go ahead and you mask all that information which is not really available, which gives a comfort both to the customer as well as the agent, because it is just not there for anybody to actually misuse at any stage. The second point is in terms of creating the confidence in the customer. And, again, going back to what has been happening in the environment in the last 1.5, 2 years, particularly to do with organized fraud syndicates, which have been rampant across the country. And, we've got people, gullible people, we may end up saying, but the fact is that people have been defrauded. There is a kind of a responsibility on organizations, especially BFSIs like us, to make sure that we educate the customer on keeping the data secure at their end as well. So it is important. And with the increased use of digital payment options, this is becoming increasingly so, because as we dig deeper into the tier 2, tier 3 cities, we find that those are the customers who are more prone, more liable to probably get defrauded. And it's important that they know how to secure their data, both in terms of their transactional data and their data, simple data like their OTPs and CVVs. You find them, how many times have I seen at a restaurant somebody actually taking out the card and giving it to the bursar and, giving the OTP, giving the PIN along with it. So there is a lot of responsibility on organizations to make sure that we are actually teaching the customer the right way of using data at their end. So one is at our end, the second is at the customer's end as well. And the more trust that we build with the customer, the more the customer is likely to adopt the digital payment options. And that is very important, because unless and until we go down to that level where it is prevalent across the board, we are not really going to get a mass scale adoption. And the mass scale adoption is really important, because that is what is going to give us the benefits to plow back into the technology. Ultimately, let's all agree, we run a business. And if we need to run a business, there is a lot of investment that we need to keep on making in terms of making sure that we are ahead of the curve. And this investment has to come in from the business itself. Nobody else is going to give me money to run my own business. So I have to make sure I grow my top line and I grow the business enough so that I can feed it back.
Okay, thanks, Monish. I think maybe let me invite now the questions from the audience side of it. If we have some questions, I think that would be, I think, interesting. Sri Lakshmi, do we have certain set of questions for us?
I don't see any questions yet.
Okay. Then let me, maybe, I think, how much time do we have, Sri Lakshmi? I think we have one more theme of topic to discuss about.
Yes, you can go on, yeah.
Okay. So I think we more or less discuss about deploying some of those technology, as well as how it is able to help in operational excellence, as well as the customer service. We also talked about how it is useful in terms of adoption, as well as the data side of it. I think there another interesting topic is about there are a lot of times the customer retentions as well as fraud preventions can also be happen through the data as well as those technology. I may start with my inputs towards to that how we are using it, and then I request the co-panelists also to please feel free to jump in basis their experience to this space. I think being in MX, in fact, I also had experience into Citibank also, although I do not have an experience into the BFSI space of in India. But what I have observed that the data, the way the frauds are being happening, it's a like kind of a cat and mouse game, and the fraudster are keep moving ahead in terms of creating a more and more ways to really fool the system, especially with the lot of online penetration as well as e-commerce. I think the fraud landscape has changed, and that's why it is necessary for any BFSI institutions to add those technology into the place for fraud prevention, because until unless they understand that those nature of the data as well as those systems, it's difficult to really prevent those frauds. And that's how the I think MX is like one of the leading companies. In fact, we have the fraud solution which are best in class. Reason being that we understand those data very well. We have a closed loop data with us where we understand the kind of 360-degree of the whole view of the customer, and then we are able to prevent it. Similarly, I believe that a lot of insurance company also might have the similar problem in place where they're scanning various claim documents through AI and NLP side of it, and then we can also discuss. We can also say that any insurance company can also say that whether the incoming claim is fraudulent or not. So I think there are a lot of scopes to this particular one. I think that's also interesting to have. Any co-panelists would like to comment on the customer retention and the fraud prevention side of, and how the technology can help there?
Manisha, in fact, I think that's a very interesting point you bring about, because the fact is you were talking about frauds and how to prevent frauds. And that is where a lot of data analytics and data analytics engines are actually working and working very well. I'll take a simple example. You know, you've got those fraud tools that are working at the background, and with the tons of data that you actually generate in terms of transactions, there is a very simple algorithm to actually match the transaction velocities with the customer profile. And that is, I think, something that increasingly, at least the financial services organizations, and like you said earlier, in terms of underwriting organizations, those are the ones who are actually using these technologies to crawl the data to make sure that you are actually not only making algorithms which are working on the data, but these are self-learning. So over a period of time, you start working on these so that they are, well, you try to be one step ahead of the fraudster, and in some, hopefully you are able to actually make sure that you do that.
Okay, thanks, Mukesh. So I think let me ask one more question about the open banking side of it. I hope some of you might have heard about that term, and that is kind of norm in, especially in the India market. And open banking is kind of helping in terms of assessing the data for many of the use cases, especially the underwriting kind of use cases. Does anybody would like to comment on that particular piece?
Yes. Yes, so in India, in fact, India is a little late in terms of adopting this open banking API, right? And thankfully, there has been lots of progress that is already made, okay? And like if you guys have heard about Sahamati, right? So basically, there was an event that happened in Mumbai, okay? And they basically, I think it was a closed beta that happened. It was supposed to go live sometime in May, around May 20th. This entire account aggregator framework that got delayed by COVID, okay, but that's going to come, okay. But what it is going to have in terms of impact is that it's going to basically allow basically financial information users, okay, to basically pull in data in a clean manner from the data source directly, okay. So all of those use cases that used to exist in terms of say document or data related fraud, etc., okay, that will go away, right? That's one. Number two, it's going to be a single pipe through which multiple varieties of data will come. Okay, so it's not going to be just say, for example, last say whatever month of number of months of a bank statement. It's going to have, say, like IT returns coming in. It will have data like, say, pretty much if the person has done, say, insurance, mutual funds, say, even PF and whatnot. Okay, so this is a framework that is now becoming a reality in India, and hopefully this will get launched this year. Okay. Now, what it will do is that there are different kind of entities that is coming up. Okay, so one new entity or a new type of NBFC that RBI has basically started giving, I would say, license is called LSP, loan service provider. Okay, so these guys are basically technology providers. Okay, whose technology can be used more of a marketplace kind of model. Okay, by like any of the fund providers. Okay, and these can be traditional banks. So newer and newer models you will see in terms of evolving in terms of use of this open banking API that's coming now in India.
Okay. Thanks, Mukesh. I think it's really interesting, and I definitely see that because of open a banking kind of thing, the kind of access to the data, especially the bank kind of data, would be very helpful for underwriters, as well as it would also able to assess the actual
Right.
risk of the customer. So I think that's a very good point. So I think probably it's the time for us to summarize. Before we summarize, I think is there any final comment? Any would like to mention it? Do you like to have something as a concluding remark?
Yeah, so thank you, Manish, for this opportunity for concluding it. So I would like to add that, see, with this COVID-19 pandemic, which has already caused a lot of functions in the businesses to change and to adapt faster to the new technologies, whether it is data analytics, machine learning, or IoT. We see that these technologies will definitely provide us with more efficient and an intelligent way of doing things, which are now essential and not a luxury or a add-on to our operational continuity. So now more than ever, businesses will need to look at redesigning operations and their processes at activity level, at task level, at subtask level to leverage all these technologies to enhance efficiency, to enable more remote operations going onward, to streamline cost, and also to deliver operational excellence and resilience. So all these developments and the transition of operating model has actually helped in making a case of adoption of conversational AI, of data analytics, of robotics process automation to maintain business operations in the most adverse time while not compromising on productivity and efficiency. So let us see that how we see an exponential demand for these technologies across BFSI uh, with different functions which are verticalized offerings and which are also the horizontalized offerings. That is my submission.
Okay.
Manish. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks, Vatul. Mayur, do you also have something at the end to comment over it?
Thank you, Manish. So while we say that use of technology is increasing, at the same time, data security also plays a very important role, right? So using solutions, technologies that can help you secure information plays a vital role in the world era that we are living in. So that's one point that I would like to make here.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I think it's a very interesting as well as a good experience for me, as well as getting a lot of points. So we more or less discussed about how the technology is changing the landscape, how because of the COVID, how the accelerations towards the adoption to it, how it brings to the efficiency in terms of the customer service, operational excellence side of it. At the same time, the issue related to opening up the more data because of the technology and how we are able to churn the data. I think that's also an interesting point, and the privacy is also something is a one big pillar in terms of the adoption. I think it's a starting. I would say that it's the journey that we are starting in, and the way I think we are going and the way that technology is enabling us, I definitely see a very good future from both benefit from the customer perspective as well as the enterprise perspective. Thanks, everyone, I think, for your time. And let me ask if any questions from the audience side do we have. We can answer that. Otherwise, we'll be able to conclude. Thanks, everyone. Sheila, do we have any question?
No, no,
From the
not yet.
audience side?
It looks like we don't have any audience questions.
Thank you, Srilakshmi. So over to you.
Yes, thank you everyone for that very valuable
Okay,
session.
I'm not sure she'll be able to hear me. Anyway, thank you everyone. I think thanks for a very good discussion. I think have a good day and have a be healthy and happy even the crisis that we are in. Okay, thanks much for joining.
Thank you everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you.
audience.